what's the reason somebody would want to hear about this deal?
Yeah, so high level key points of like what makes this deal really attractive. It's fully vacant building in Hamilton, which is a not typical thing to come by.
Because you don't think we'll get anybody out.
Yeah. Exactly. You don't have to deal with any tenant issues.
Am I going to go dump hundreds of thousands into this thing and then all the tenants are going to show back up and say, hey, I want my unit? I know it's not that simple, but it is a concern. And the fact that this is not the case on this building is quite favorable.
Yeah. Welcome back to REI Hot Seat. Andrew Hines here with Jacob Campagnaro and our office Scotsman, Mark Luciano. Inside joke. That's not exactly a Scottish sounding name. All right, anyways. Mark, how you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for doing this. So you are bringing the deal today, and I'm looking at a spreadsheet here, but I think you're the guy that crafted it. And let's just talk high level. So we got a real deal here. What's the reason somebody would want to hear about this deal?
Yeah, so high level key points of like what makes this deal really attractive. It's fully vacant building in Hamilton, which is not a typical thing to come by.
Because you don't think we'll get anybody out.
Yeah. Exactly. You don't have to deal with any tenant issues, which are just becoming more and more challenging as time goes on. So fully vacant is huge. You can get started on the project day one right away, and you don't have that tenant risk. It's a mixed use building, 3-story, 6 residential units with 2 large commercial units down on the ground floor.
2 large commercial, 6 res. And then is there, I think I heard there's potential at the back here?
Exactly, yeah. So potential to chop the commercial units in half and get probably 2 bachelor units back there. We had another client actually do something very similar just a few hundred meters down on the same street in Hamilton.
Okay.
Had to go through a rezoning, but it was pretty straightforward. The city, Hamilton's not super easy to work with in that regard, but they were supportive of it.
They had to rezone though, huh?
Yeah.
What, I've never done a rezone. I know in London, spot rezones were like absolute no-no, but some municipalities are all about it.
Yeah.
Like you can do a spot
I know Hamilton's very pro intensification, right? Like they want to intensify. They want to, they especially with their mixed use, like there's a lot of corridors. This might be one where they want some retail to remain. I think you're saying the front's going to stay. We're going to cut off the back.
Well, of course.
Right.
Yeah,
But there's some streets, there is some streets in Hamilton where they're saying, no, get rid of the retail completely.
They're good to get rid of it?
Yeah. Because it's like old nodes that maybe were retail at one point, but now they're mostly res. And the city's been okay with converting complete units.
Not to go down a rabbit hole here, but I mean, this is something where if you're still keeping the commercial retail on the street facing, then maybe you could just go with a minor variance to allow them to put residential at the back. Yeah.
So too early on to know the exact particulars until we get into discussions with like city planners and everything. So it may not be as extensive as a full rezoning. Like
like a minor variance is like you can do that application yourself.
Yeah.
A rezone, I haven't done that. I'm guessing I would pay an urban planner to do it, and I'm guessing I would get into tens of thousands to make that happen.
Yeah. So 2 questions come to mind so I'm excited about this one because I haven't heard too much about it, but I'm really interested in it. So 2 questions come to mind. So you're saying the building is vacant, all right? So when I hear that, the first thing I think of is, how was the building vacated? How long has it been vacant? Is there concern of tenants coming back, or is this kind of free and clear? You know how that was done?
Great questions. So this particular one, it's owned by your typical old European owner. He bought this thing like 10, 20 years ago. Yeah. So he's owned it for quite some time. And he owns it for next to nothing. He owns it free and clear. Right. So his expenses on it are minimal. So it was on his list of things to do at some point to renovate it and just complete the project and have the finished building and own it himself. But it's quite an extensive construction project. So he just hasn't got around to it. And he's like at a point where he's older. So he's like, I know there's value in leaving it vacant. It's not much of an expense on my end. So he's left it that way and knows that that's how he's going to maximize his sale price.
Yeah. So that's amazing, right? So there's not really a big concern of tenants coming back like N13 or anything like that, which is amazing, right? Because that's like, as soon as you hear vacant building, that's always my number one fear. My worry is like, okay, it was done on an N13 and now we got to negotiate with tenants. Are they coming back? Am I going to go dump hundreds of thousands into this thing and then all the tenants are going to show back up and say, hey, I want my unit? I know it's not that simple, but it is a concern. And the fact that this is not the case on this building is quite favorable. Yeah. So that was my first question. My second question is, being mixed use, is there a play here for CMHC financing? How does that look? Do we have the allocation? Because as we know, the CMHC will allow up to 33% commercial. Anything over 33% commercial, then they're not going to allow it in the CMHC program.
So just before you jump in, Mark, I'm guessing this is why the plan was to add the two at the main level to get it under that threshold so that you could do CMHC.
Yeah. Great point as well, because CMHC financing is the end goal for this one. You're going to get the best terms and allow your deal to make the most sense in terms of your return, being able to strip out capital. So right now, as it stands, it's a 3-story building. So ground floor commercial, 2 stories of res above it.
So it is pretty much a third.
It's evenly split a third, roughly. So the idea to add the residential units would be to like get you over the edge and get you to the maximum commercial percentage. So there's either that route that's obviously a little more involved. You're going to get additional income through those res units. What we've seen other clients do as well, which is a more simpler path, is just chop off part of the back of the commercial and just designate it res by way of storage or laundry.
Yeah, storage facilities, laundry rooms, bike walkers,
so
right?
To meet that requirement.
So you can get your percentages. You're not going to get as much additional income as you would by adding units and getting rent from those. But another option that could also make sense.
But if you're saying there's another building meters away, not even neighborhoods or streets, but a couple meters down the road, and they were successful in converting retail space, then it's a pretty strong case here to say, hey, let's add 2, 3, 4. I don't know. You'll talk about how many units, but whether it's even 2 units, I think that's a great angle while it's vacant. Right? Like, this is the thing. This is what everybody's looking for. It's vacant. You can add the units. Go do it while it's vacant. Right? Well, don't mess with it.
Okay, so let's just take a quick look at the spreadsheet. Am I okay to look at the straight to CMHC tab? That's accurate.
Financials and stabilized.
Just financials. Okay, so financials.
For anybody that doesn't know, Mark is the resident performa drafter.
Yeah. Well, and they're not the simplest ones in that they're very detailed. So
he likes his details.
So details are good. Let's just start at the top. So we got listed price 1.4, which makes a price per door of 140,000, assuming that there's 10.
Yeah.
So meaning you split off the 2 residential off the back. There's going to be a cost associated, which is unknown there. So you'd have to add that in. So it's not truly 140. There's going to be a little bit more than that, unknown exactly. And then of course renovating them. But anyway, so that's how it goes into the sheet. This is $2,100 a month, and they're all 2 bedrooms except for the 2 bachelors, which are anticipated to be $1,300 a month.
Yeah.
Okay, so those are the 2 bachelors that would be created, and then we've got commercial. Obviously, commercial is not expected typically to fetch as much. So 500 square foot, we're thinking $600 a month.
Yeah, like these would be smaller commercial units, which it would probably be some sort of professional. My thoughts, like law, accounting, even like a masseuse, but I think at 600
broker's office.
Yeah.
I think 600 is a little light.
Yeah, I think we're being a little conservative there.
Looking at, I know the street, and I've actually done retail leasing on that street back in the day, and like we were $1,000 minimum, right, for retail. So I think, listen, 650, like it's a good placeholder because you're going to get a tenant for that, right? If you want to be a little bit more optimistic, I do think you could reach to $1,000, maybe even 1,100, depending on the tenant, the space, whatnot. But I like that.
Yeah. Okay. So let's just look into this a little bit more. So looking at your stabilized refi, tell me the assumptions that are going into that. Are we assuming those units?
So we've put a placeholder in there once again, just based off past projects we've seen clients do successfully. And I think we've got $1 million total for the entire building. That includes renovating the 6 existing units, adding the additional 2 bachelor units, and then cleaning up the remaining commercial space.
Interesting. I can see your note. I hover over it.
Yeah.
So yeah, you've got bachelors are going to be accessible. So the idea would be to be able to qualify for the CMHC MLI Select and get the full 100 points.
No. So with the changes, you can now get a maximum of 50 points through energy efficiency.
Right. So you got to do accessibility for the rest.
Do that and then get an additional 20 points through accessibility to bring you to 70. So you're not going to be at the full 100, but you'll still have access to the better terms, which are, if I remember correctly, you can go 45-year amortization instead of 40-year, and your debt cover requirement's only 1.1 rather than 1.2.
So it lubricates the deal a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, so you got debt coverage at 1.1 here, leaving a positive cash flow on the year of 13,700.
Yeah.
Here, and that's assuming what rate are we looking at for right now? Because rates have been coming down a bit.
Yeah.
Especially we just had the announcement. That's obviously going to have an indirect effect on the bond rate. So
so we're using 4.75 as a placeholder. I think there should be a little bit of cushion built into that. That's probably a comfortable number based on some deals we've seen get funded this month.
Yeah, I closed one not too long ago. It was 4.5. Right.
Yeah, we've got one closing at the end of the month at 4.6, I think. So
you've got this one showing in here at 88% loan to value. Would that make sense? So you wouldn't be going up to 90. 90 would probably be the max allowed with the 70 points. If your DCR would work.
I'm going off memory here, so it could be 85, in which case we might have to scale that back.
I think you just did this because your DCR perfectly meets 1.1.
Yeah.
So you just scaled it back a bit already.
So if we were to go to 85, Andrew, are we taking out all of our capital here? Is this a...
Okay, so let's just do some simple math here. At 88, you're you're 2.468 on the mortgage amount. You're budgeting $1 million into it on top of the 1.4 to acquire. So that's roughly a wash as a perfect burr at 88%. So if you're under that, you're going to be a little bit out of pocket here. What's 3% on?
I think if you there's should be a little box there that's
it says monthly payments non-CMHC.
There's let me just
here, I'll hand you the beautiful thing is I could just pass this to you. The screen is recording, so go ahead and point out.
We were talking about this earlier too.
So this number here, so at 88%, all your money out plus an additional 70K in addition to what you've put in. If we scale this back to 85, let's see what that looks like. Let this update. Yeah, so you're all your money out less 12 grand at 85%.
Yeah, so even with the traditional CMHC program, assuming you could make it work, the only problem there would be not hitting the 1.2 debt service. So you do need the MLI program just for the debt service relief in that case.
Yeah.
So was there a play here, Mark, to just not do that? To just, I guess your stabilized refi is sort of modeling the CMHC route.
Yeah.
Is there a route to not go CMHC, or you really need to do CMHC to make it make sense?
I think you would have to. Like, you certainly wouldn't go conventional commercial financing at like a 25 or 30 year amortization higher rate. They would throw the numbers off a lot.
Yeah. And Andrew, sorry, when you say that, are you talking about MLI or are you talking about CMHC versus conventional?
Just conventional. Yeah, regular conventional. I think the problem with that...
I don't think anything's working conventionally
the problem is the 25-year AM restriction, which is, 99% of the time is going to be a thing. I think for anybody, that's going to throw their DCR out, which means they're going to have to put in way too much money.
Yeah, you're going to have a lot more money stuck in the deal. So I don't think that would be the route. Like, you'd have to push for at least the standard program. And with a vacant building, a lot of the times, like, the energy efficiency stuff is things that are going to benefit your bottom line and the value of your building when you're putting utilities
it's
onto the tenants.
It's logical
got heat
stuff.
Pumps in there.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing I like about the CMHC guidelines. And for like crunching the numbers, right? There are requirements for maintenance and all that. It's very logical. Like, you as an owner would want to budget that stuff anyway. And then the things you're going to do, like you said, the energy efficiency, the accessibility, that just makes you more marketable. Although, I mean, I think if you ended up having a tenant that had accessibility requirements, the publicity of if one day they didn't pay rent and evicting them would probably be worse. That's why I used to hear the old adage that people won't lend on a church because you never want to be the one. You never want to be the one.
You never want to kick the church
foreclosing.
out. Yeah.
Get out of here.
Yeah. But even like Andrew, to that point, even the accessibility units, if historically, like thinking back on all the new builds that I've helped sell or have toured through, it's interesting because a lot of the accessibility units actually end up going to just elderly people.
Yeah.
Because they're barrier free. There's no staircase.
Yeah.
You know, the light switches are a little lower. Like I find it actually ends up going to somebody who just wants that type of unit.
Yeah, I was just pointing that out. I don't actually think that's a real concern. It wouldn't really be for me. Yeah. You want to get good tenants. That's
no, I just thought it was interesting, right? Because they have this in the program. There's people doing the accessibility units, and 95% of the units I've seen that have been accessible, it's not actually people that are handicapped. Living in those units.
Yeah. Right. Like you've still got the ability to select the tenant and like you can be mindful of that, obviously.
So Mark, have you worked out on this one, like an overall return on investment for dollars in the deal? I mean, I know it actually should be pretty ridiculous because it's almost a perfect birth. So it's going to be a bonkers number that doesn't even really make sense to look at.
Like you said, haven't bothered doing that, but on the basis that you're able to strip out
it's like an infinite return,
almost all of your capital, then you've owned a building for no money in the deal that's cash flow positive. So
it kind of skews stuff, right? Like I was running a performer the other day, and it was all cash out, and the guy was like, "Well, what's my cash on cash return?" I was like,
"It's infinite,
256,000." I was like, "I don't know, man. It's high." There's no capital requirement, right?
Yeah, a nice thing to look at is like, what are my different returns? So like you could obviously add up what your mortgage pay down is in the year. You look at your cash flow. So over the year, you have your total cash flow is 18,000 here. Plus you've got that mortgage pay down. So that's going to be a chunk of at only 4.75%. Like you're paying off a good chunk of that mortgage on an annual basis too. So it's nice to have, like, even if you just add those two numbers together, say you're paying off 40,000 or 30,000 on the mortgage over the course of the year. That's 50 grand return in a year, hypothetically, on something that you would be into your hours. Now, how many hours is this going to take somebody? If you're budgeting $1 million, it seems like you've budgeted enough to hire contractors to do the work. So I would look at it, if I was thinking about it for me, is how many hours am I going to have in the deal? Let's put a value on my time. Am I 600 an hour? Am I 30 hours into it? You multiply that, put that as part of your investment. You invested your time. What do you value your time at?
Yeah.
And that's a way that you can calculate a return on something where you theoretically have nothing in when you do have your time in.
Yeah. Great point.
That's actually a really good point. I like that thinking.
Yeah. Right? Especially to your high, like, net worth clients. That's a good thing to talk to them about. Say, okay, let's put a value on your time. How much, like, especially with ones where you can't calculate your return. Let's take it one further. Let's calculate your return. What's your time worth?
What's your return on headache?
Yeah.
Right. That's,
well, you're going to have the ongoing asset management, even if you hire property management, right? Like, you're taking that phone call, like, well, that's something that's hard to quantify.
Well, if you hire professional property management, you really shouldn't be taking that phone call.
Not much. No, just like, where do you want that deposit sent? You know?
Right.
The basics.
But even then, like, some management companies will take all the money. They'll cut their chunk, give you the rest. Maybe even they pay bills. Like,
so an asset management company would actually hire the contractors.
Correct. Right.
But a property manager probably won't.
Right.
Unless you find a good property manager, which technically they're doing some asset management.
Well, no, you spend your time on this from day one, right? You get the trades in there, you get the trades working, get them to finish their stuff. Once you refi it, then it should be fairly hands off as far as passive as real estate can be, right?
So on that note, what did you budget here for management?
So going off memory here, like you said, the great thing about going to CMHC is they're going to underwrite it with all of these things built in, including management, salaries to do snow removal, grass cutting. There's no grass on this property.
So is that the $550 per door that they do?
Yeah, so that's the
cover, landscaping and snow removal and all that.
And they're going to build in a monthly cost for maintenance and repairs, which on a completely brand new renovated building, you shouldn't have.
Not much. Yeah, more replacement reserve. But I think, what is it, 4.25% that they are, or is that the management?
Replacement reserve is 2%.
2% for replacement reserve, and what are
management's 830 for stick. Or $950 for concrete.
Oh, you're saying maintenance per door. It's a per door maintenance. Which, if you think about it, in a year, if your unit turned over, 800 is your paint. Like that spends pretty quick. But the idea is that they don't turn over yearly. They turn over every few years.
Yeah, the idea is you look at your turnover rate, right? And then you say, okay, if I'm taking $850 per unit, and one unit turns over every couple of years, or every year, one unit, you're still making money there. You're okay, right? Yeah. And then you have your salaries, your $555. Yeah. That's going to be your snow removal, landscaping, whatever.
Yeah, with so to the property management specifically, I think there's 4.25% allocated to that, and then that's combined with the salaries and maintenance.
Yeah, exactly. So it adds up. Yeah,
it's a good way to do it. Like I like the CMHC underwriting, right? And because CMHC has become so popular in the last number of years, like I'm not having that conversation as much with owners.
It's become the standard.
Where you used to sit there and they'd be like, no, it's like your taxes, your utilities, and
and they're going to say,
and this is how much my grass costs to cut. It's like, seriously. So I haven't had that conversation very much lately. It's been nice. Where we just say, listen, we're all going to agree. We're going to use CMHC standards and we're going to apply a cap rate to it. Let's argue what that cap rate should be, but at least we're not arguing numbers here.
Yeah, no, it's brought a nice standard to the industry. I think among people who transact in these buildings, a fair bit. So cool. Well, I think any other notes that you wanted to cover on the building, or you think that pretty much sums it up?
Yeah, I think that's a good summary of the deal. And
for context, this is like a 0 lot line storefront in Hamilton. Yeah. Like, what area of Hamilton are we talking?
Barton Street.
Street.
Right by the general hospital, though. So, like I referenced that other building that's a few hundred meters down. Like, very good potential to get hospital workers, nurses, doctors that can literally walk to work.
Yeah, that's actually a great thing. Yeah.
That's what I was saying. I was talking to Dave about this earlier. Like, Barton has like 2 good pockets, and it's like Barton and James, right? And then this pocket, right? Like right next to the hospital.
Which is technically more, like on a map, a little bit more west.
It is more west, right? Yeah. And then after this pocket, it does kind of become a bit of a no man's land. Like there's not much there. Like Kenilworth and Barton, like it's like not much going on down there. But
Hamilton's not what it used to be. That used, anything Barton used to be off limits, but now it's like
lenders weren't even funding.
Yeah, they weren't even funding deals down there. But now it's like that was like 15 years ago. It's transitioned to a point now where that's where the yuppies go.
Well, there's a new oyster joint that just opened up on Barton. I think you were talking about that the other day.
Yeah, a lot of the retail spots. No, I haven't. It's on my list, but a lot of the retail spots are turning. Like the one building our client's got, he's putting a nice premium butcher shop in there. So there's some good retail spots that are coming up in Barton.
It's definitely stigmatized, and that needs to go away. Like
that's old stigma.
I know, but I even have some of it. Right, like the other day I was ordering Skip the Dishes, and it was like a Vietnamese restaurant. I was like, oh, the food's awesome. And then we looked up where it is. I was like, oh, it's Barton. Never mind. I don't want to order it. Like, but which is silly because it really is becoming a good part of town. Like especially in certain nodes, it's not what it used to be. So I need to get rid of that stigma as well. And Hamilton is very quickly becoming a desirable spot. And I know I'm going to Hamilton to eat dinner way more than any other city right now.
Yeah,
right.
For sure.
Like I used to go to Oakville a lot. Now I'm actually finding more cool, trendy spots in Hamilton. We were talking about that right before we jumped on. Right, we were saying My Pie and a few other places. Right.
Yeah,
shout out.
Sure. I don't know what that is, but all right.
Go get some pizza. Yeah,
free pizza for everybody.
Sounds great. All right, guys. Well, if you made it this far in the show, be sure to show the channel some love. And if you want to become an REI Hot Seat Insider, make sure you sign up via the link in the description of this video. Or if you're watching on or listening on one of our podcast platforms or watching on Spotify, you can do so in the show notes. And that gets you access to, deals like this one, right? Sure, and then also exclusive stuff that you guys have that's not even listed, deals of the week. So for people who are interested in these type of deals and this level of due diligence, like just in terms of putting the numbers together, That's not something that I see every day coming from, realtors who do this kind of thing. So definitely something that is great to get your hands on if you are an enthusiast of this type of transaction. So any other notes on that, guys? Anything?
No, I think that was perfect.
Yeah. If you want more details on that deal specifically, like you said, it's an exclusive off market. So
okay,
happy to go.
Yeah, this is a investments group listing.
So once they're on the list, can they reply to the email they get if they have a question?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And if you're on the list, you're going to get a copy of this with the data room, with the offering memorandum, with the CIM. Like, you'll have all the information. We're going to be sending it out, next week?
Yeah.
Right. We'll probably get an email blast out next week to everybody. So if you're interested in this, join the link below. We are going to reach out to you, so you can always reach out before you get it and start talking with us, but you will get a copy of this.
Perfect. Okay. All right, guys. Thanks a lot. We'll see you again next week.